Chapter 2:15. Not far away, 4 small boats and a warship were sailing towards them. Just as Thea was wondering if she should sink the warship first, she realized that the warship, which could barely be considered a light cruiser, had hit the rocks right in front of her eyes. It hit the rocks. The hull of the ship tilted violently, and soldiers kept swimming to the boats. In less than 3 seconds, the warship began to fill with water, and in less than 10 seconds, it sank to the bottom of the sea. Are you kidding me? She did not believe that there was no divine intervention in this. It was too suspicious. There were many submerged reefs near Paradise Island, but the bottom of the warship in the early 20th century was already very thick, and there were also repairmen on board. The speed at which it sank was too fast. With a loud noise from the warship, Diana finally woke up from her academic discussion about men. She looked at the 4 small boats not far away and the armed soldiers on them. Oh, they're coming. Steve finally got out of his imagination and looked at the German soldiers who were about to land. He wanted to run up the mountain. Diana. The Queen's anxious and angry roar came at the right time. Thea breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the plot would not change. Diana, get out of there. Hippolyte did not wait for Diana's response. She shouted to the female warriors around her, "Archers, get ready." Huh. Their cliff was thousands of meters away from the sea. How did this group of female warriors suddenly become so fierce? Just as Thea was thinking about what was going on, she saw the Queen's body light up with a green wind, and the green wind instantly enveloped all the female warriors around her. So it was a magical equipment. No wonder. Thea did not think that all the female warriors were equipped with the Eye of Horus. Even if Horus turned into a centipede, he would not have so many eyes. However, this equipment was really good. The Queen, who did not have any magic power, could use it. Needless to say, it was given to her by Zeus, who was her close friend. It wasn't wrong to say that Diana had a full set of godly equipment, but as Zeus' mistress, she had lived for so many years without being killed by the jealous god Queen Hera. One could imagine how luxurious her equipment was. The first round of crossfire between the Amazons and the German soldiers ended with the Queen's side winning. A rain of arrows streaked across the sky and fell on the enemy's head. The only pity was that the Queen had rushed over in a hurry. There were too few of them, less than 50 of them, while the German soldiers on the other side had more than 300. After taking the first round of arrows head-on, the German side lost less than 10% of their members. The remaining people yelled and rowed with all their might, rapidly shortening the distance between the two sides. Diana, take him and hide. I'll join the battle. Thea now had some feelings for Paradise Island. The Queen had brought her guards, and Thea knew all of them by name. Originally, there would be a lot of casualties, but now that she was here, she would not let that happen. As for these Germans, they were all wiped out in the original plot. Presumably, they would not interfere with the timeline, so she did not have any psychological burden to kill them. Before the German soldiers completely entered the anti-magic area, Thea shot 4 arrows in a row. Each arrow was accompanied by a flash spell. Although this beginner spell was originally invented by the old sorcerers for illumination, it was very effective in battle. The German soldiers on the 4 ships felt like they were on the edge of the sun. The strong light made them unable to open their eyes. However, they were well trained after all. The leading officer gave the order loudly, and everyone closed their eyes and continued to row with all their might. Amazing. Thea sighed softly. The Germans were known as the strongest army in Europe. This kind of discipline was admirable. However, due to her standpoint, she shot the leading officer dead with some respect, but soon, she was stunned. The Germans' command system was not completely paralyzed. After shooting a captain dead, a lieutenant immediately took over. After 2 lieutenants were shot dead, a second lieutenant took over the command. They were really elite soldiers. Compared to the American soldiers in the 21st century who could not walk without a GPS, these people were worthy of being called elite. However, admiration was one thing. Thea did not stop at all. She stood there like a mountain and kept shooting arrows. She aimed at the German soldiers who had raised their guns. Just as she shot and killed 17 soldiers, the female Amazons also shouted and jumped down from the cliff to join the battle. The Germans recovered quickly. The second lieutenant kept giving orders, and the team of more than 200 people moved quickly like a machine. The metal bullets began to show their power on the battlefield. The second lieutenant with a big beard, who might have been very stylish at the time, but looked a little dirty in Thea's eyes. He touched his beard and looked contemptuously at the female Amazons who were gathering. Natives? Haha. Let them see the power of science. His contemptuous look made Thea angry. Natives my *SS. I haven't even said that you have a big beard. The people of the 21st century were mocked as natives by the people of the 20th century. She could not tolerate it. Shooting him with a bow and arrow would be letting him off easy. Thea was ready to take him back and let him see the torture of the natives. She instantly cast the wind walk spell on herself. With the blessing of divine power, the power of her spells was much stronger than before. She rushed toward the bearded man as fast as lightning. Fire! The bearded man did not know that he was in danger. Seeing that many soldiers had regrouped, he loudly gathered the soldiers and pointed their guns at the female warrior who jumped down from the cliff. Bang bang, the sound of gunshots rang out continuously. There were 50 rifles aimed at the female warrior who was rushing over. Thea's dynamic vision was instantly activated. From the analysis of the trajectory, she could see that many female warriors would be shot. They might not know the power of guns, or they might be fearless. Of course, Thea could not just watch them die. She did not have time to catch the bearded man. She ran at full speed, like an arrow, and rushed to the crossfire area. Although she was far from the speed of the Flash, her instantaneous speed at this time exceeded 800 kilometers per hour. In the face of this kind of old-fashioned Mauser rifle, she passed through the crossfire area like a gust of wind. Fearing that stray bullets would cause accidental injuries, she wrapped her hands with magic and intercepted all the bullets that were shot at the female warrior in midair. You have science, I have magic. Sia shouted this sentence out loud. She didn't care whether the bearded man understood her or not. She just shot the bullets in her hand in the opposite direction like scattering flowers. She did not practice with hidden weapons, nor did she deliberately aim. She used her mental power to roughly determine the direction. She did not pursue any lethality. She threw it with all her strength just to deter this group of enemies. Da-da, the sound of a large number of horses' hooves could be heard. The queen took more than 30 guards around the bottom of the cliff and began to charge at the flank of the German soldiers. The two sides were very close, and many people were stunned by Thea's attack. It was not until the queen, wearing a gorgeous-looking armor, charged into the German team that they were shocked. The formation was directly broken up, and they could only try to stop the Amazons' attack in 2s and 3s. Chapter 2:16. At this moment, the queen was as valiant as a valkyrie. She rode on a tall white horse and slashed left and right with a long sword. Wherever she went, it was as if she was invincible. Thea could see spiritual light that ordinary people could not see. She was almost dazzled by the magic effects on the queen. At a rough glance, there were 7 or 8 pieces of equipment with different effects. There were some that increased attack and defense, and there seemed to be some kind of halo effect. The combat power of the female warriors was obviously higher than usual. This was the level 1 Smurf that was armed with epic equipment by the max-level main account Zeus. Thea watched the queen slashing the German soldiers like they were vegetables. At this time, she deeply understood Zeus's love. The anti-magic domain to protect the Amazons from the outside world was all a lie. The real thing was to protect his mistress. Looking at the queen's godly equipment, except for the king of gods, the rest of the gods would be beaten up by the queen if they entered Paradise Island in their true form. Thea naturally would not just stand there and watch. She silently used her divine power to activate the talent of the Chosen One. Eternal Night. The power that belonged to the goddess of the hunt shrouded an area of 10 miles. The clear sky of the battlefield was instantly covered by the clear moonlight. The strength of the women in the area was greatly increased, and the men were severely suppressed. Diana, who was hiding with Steve Trevor, saw that her people were fighting. Thea's night sky had also greatly enhanced her strength. She only felt that her strength was endless. She gritted her teeth and ran out to participate in the first battle of her life. Steve was also prepared to go and help, but Thea's transformation had completely destroyed his worldview. He did not know that he was being suppressed by an invisible divine power. He only felt that his mouth was dry and his legs were trembling. His legs were trembling, and he could not take a step forward for a long time. The queen, the female warriors, and even the maras they rode were all buffed by Thea. The female warriors on foot moved like the wind, almost leaving afterimages behind. Antiope jumped down from the horse's back, her body turning continuously in midair, the short sword and spear in her hand constantly swinging. By the time she landed, there were already 7 German soldiers lying around her. The dark-skinned woman and the elk, who were not far from the battlefield, heard the exchange of gunfire and rushed over. This was also the first time Thea had seen the elk fight. Its body gradually began to expand as it ran, and finally became the size of an adult elephant. Its originally cute antlers had now become as sharp as swords. Its huge body was unstoppable as it rushed into the central area of the German soldiers. 4 or 5 soldiers were directly pushed into the sky by its huge momentum. At this time, Steve mustered up his courage and finally got rid of a German soldier. When he raised his gun to support the female soldiers, he saw such an anti-Darwinian moose. His emotions surged, and he collapsed to the side. Niabi, he is not the enemy. The dark-skinned woman ran a little slower than the elk and happened to see Steve sneakily raising his gun. When she was about to throw a javelin at him, Thea hurriedly stopped him to avoid a major change in the timeline. The dark-skinned woman glared at Steve until he couldn't stand up. Then she rushed into the battlefield with a roar, the javelin in her hand shooting out instantly. She was different from the female warriors. As a servant, she had come into contact with Thea's eternal night enchantment many times in the past 6 months. She was very experienced in using the increased power. The javelin in her hand shot out at the right angle. 2 German soldiers were nailed to the ground before they could even make a sound. At this time, the most dazzling person on the battlefield was Diana. After spending half a year with Thea, she had gradually gotten rid of her naivety. Whether it was her conviction or her own martial arts, she was much better than her original self. Especially when she saw a queen's guard fall to the ground, the anger in her heart washed away the fear of entering the battlefield. Charging, whirlwind slash, shield bash. It was as if she didn't know fatigue, constantly rushing left and right on the battlefield. On the other hand, the German soldiers were greatly weakened. They were originally inferior to the female warriors in all aspects. Now, with the Queen's halo and Thea's discriminating buff, they found that their opponents came and went like lightning, while they were as slow as 80-year-old men. More and more German soldiers fell in pools of blood. Under the heavy psychological pressure, a few of them finally shouted loudly to surrender. Mother. When Diana heard that the other party was about to surrender, the righteous belief in her heart regained the upper hand. She quickly ran to Hippolyte and asked. Due to the heavy casualties of the female warriors and the death of Antiope, neither the Queen nor Diana mentioned anything about surrendering. They ignored everything and killed all the Germans. However, at this time, Antiope was not even injured, let alone killed. One of the female warriors was seriously injured and 2 were lightly injured. None of them were life-threatening. Hippolyte hesitated for a moment. Tie them all up. The Queen pointed at Steve Trevor in the distance. Catch that guy too. I want to ask him why he came to Paradise Island. Diana naturally obeyed. She also saw Steve's useless appearance. She was used to the martial arts culture of Paradise Island and looked down on this kind of guy. She was not so interested in the so-called man research. She pulled Steve in front of Hippolyte like a chicken. Thea was overjoyed when she saw this scene. Her initial impression of Steve was so bad. The 2 of them should not have anything to do with each other anymore. Great. She also happily came to the queen's side, ready to watch the show. What are you doing here? I can't say. What's your name? I can't say either. The queen asked 5 or 6 questions in a row. Steve either kept his mouth shut or said that he could not say. His nonviolent and uncooperative attitude almost made the queen laugh. He then turned to ask the German captives. They were just a bunch of soldiers who only knew how to chase after Steve. As for why they were chasing after him, perhaps only the captain in charge knew. Unfortunately, the captain was shot dead by Sia before the battle even started. The queen was too lazy to talk nonsense with Steve. She led the prisoners back to the residence in the central area with the rest of the troops. Thea, as the chosen of God, was also lucky enough to participate in Steve's small trial. This was the first time she had seen the mantra lasso. To be honest, the divine artifact's divine power was not strong. In terms of divine power alone, it was a relatively weak divine artifact. However, she did not know what the original creator wanted to do. He added a trace of the power of the rules in the forging process, causing the divine artifact's grade to rise rapidly. This kind of power of the rules was almost unbreakable in the material world. Anyway, Thea could not find a way to resist the mantra lasso. Thea could not think of a way to break it, and Steve, a mere mortal, was even more helpless. He told her everything he knew from the beginning to the end.